Lee Taman stepped off the transport ship and looked up at the massive crystal towers of Velthara Prime Academy. The buildings reached so high into the purple sky that their tops disappeared into clouds. He had never seen anything like it on Earth. The Academy was famous across 47 star systems for teaching the best students about alien life forms. Tamin carried his simple bag over his shoulder. Inside were just his clothes, some books, and a small photo of his family back on Earth. He was 22 years old and had worked very hard to get this chance. Only 5 humans had ever been accepted to study at Velthara Prime Academy. He was the 6th. As he walked toward the main building, other students moved around him. Some looked almost human but had blue skin or extra arms. Others were completely different. One student looked like a walking tree with glowing leaves. Another was made of what seemed like living glass that changed colors as it moved. A few students floated in the air instead of walking on legs. Tamin noticed that many of these alien students stopped and stared at him. Some whispered to each other in languages he could not understand. A few even stepped back when he got close. He wondered why they seemed so nervous around him. He had read that humans were called Deathworlders by many alien species, but he did not really understand what that meant. The inside of the academy was even more amazing than the outside. The walls seemed to be alive and glowed with soft light. Strange plants grew from the ceiling and swayed without any wind. Students sat in groups studying together, but when Tamin walked by, many conversations stopped. He found the registration office after asking directions 3 times. The alien behind the desk had 4 eyes and skin that looked like metal. When Tamin gave his name, the alien's eyes went wide. "You are the human student," the alien said in perfect but careful English. "We have heard much about your species. Please take these." The alien handed him a data pad and a room key. "Your classes begin tomorrow. Your room is in the East Tower, level 15. Tamin thanked the alien and found his way to the dormitory. His room was small but comfortable. It had a bed, a desk, and a large window that showed the academy grounds. Strange animals that looked like flying jellyfish drifted past the window. On Earth, jellyfish lived in the ocean, but here they floated through the air like balloons. His roommate was another human named Park Jiwoo. Jiwoo was studying to be an engineer and had been at the academy for 6 months already. When Tamin entered the room, Jiwoo looked up from his books and smiled. "Finally, another human," Jiwoo said. "I was getting tired of being the only one around here. How are you handling all the staring?" "Is that why everyone looks at me strangely?" Tamin asked as he put his bag on the empty bed. Jiwoo laughed. "You have no idea, do you? They think we are monsters. Most of these aliens come from worlds where the biggest predator is something like a rabbit. They hear Earth and think of lions and bears and sharks. To them, we come from a nightmare planet." Tamin thought about this. He had grown up in a small town near the mountains. Bears sometimes came near his house, and his father had taught him how to act around them. Wild animals were just part of life on Earth. He had never thought of them as monsters. The next morning, Tamin found his first class. The room was huge and filled with students from many different species. Some sat on chairs, others on special platforms, and a few hung from the ceiling. At the front of the room stood Professor Dr. Quintillac, who looked like a giant octopus but walked on 2 legs. "Welcome to Advanced Xenobiology," Dr. Quintillac said in a voice that sounded like music. "This semester we will study the most dangerous topic in our field, predator and prey relationships across the galaxy." Tai-min sat down next to a student who looked like she was made of living crystal. She introduced herself as Vexathara and seemed friendly but nervous. "I have never sat next to a Deathworlder before," she whispered. "Are you really from a planet with giant meat-eating beasts?" Before Tai-min could answer, Dr. Quintalak activated a holographic display. The room filled with three-dimensional images of animals from different worlds. First came creatures that looked harmless, small, furry things that ate plants and ran from danger. "These are typical predators from most civilized worlds," the professor explained. "Small, careful hunters that avoid conflict." Then the display changed. Suddenly the room was filled with images of Earth animals. A massive lion roared silently in the air above the students. A great white shark swam through the hologram, its teeth gleaming. A grizzly bear stood on its back legs, towering over the alien students. The reaction was immediate. Students throughout the room made sounds of fear and moved away from the holograms. Some covered their eyes. Others made high-pitched noises that might have been screaming. One student, who looked like a large bird, fainted and fell off his perch. Tai-min watched all this with surprise. To him, these were just animals he had seen many times. He had been camping in areas where bears lived. He had gone swimming in the ocean where sharks hunted. His uncle was a marine biologist who had shown him many documentaries about lions. "Fascinating," he said quietly, taking notes about the different hunting styles of each animal. "The bear probably lives near rivers, for fishing, and the shark has those sensors for detecting movement in dark water." The crystal student next to him turned to stare. "You are not afraid?" she asked. "Why would I be afraid?" Tai-min replied. "They are just animals doing what they need to do to survive." Around the room, other students were still making frightened noises. Dr. Quintalak had to turn off the hologram to calm everyone down. "As you can see," the professor said, "some worlds produce life forms that are beyond the experience of most civilized species. This is why we study them from a safe distance." Tai-min raised his hand. "Professor, we have animals like these near my hometown. Would it help the class if I shared what I know about their behavior?" The entire room went silent. Every alien student turned to look at him. Dr. Quintalak's 8 arms moved in what might have been surprise. "You have encountered such creatures, personally?" the professor asked. "Yes, sir. Bears come through our area every autumn looking for food before winter. My family has rules for staying safe around them, and I have been diving in areas where sharks live. They are actually quite predictable if you understand what they want." The silence in the room grew deeper. Tai-min realized that something he thought was completely normal was shocking to everyone else. He began to understand that his life on Earth had given him experiences that most aliens could not even imagine. Ji-woo had been right. To these students, humans really did come from a nightmare world. But to Tai-min, Earth was just home. The dangerous animals were neighbors he had learned to respect and understand. As class ended and students filed out, many continued to stare at him. Some seemed frightened, but others looked curious. Tai-min wondered what would happen when they learned more about what life on Earth was really like. He had a feeling this semester was going to be very interesting. 3 weeks had passed since Tai-min's first day at Velthara Prime Academy. He was getting used to the strange looks and whispered conversations that followed him everywhere. Some students had started approaching him with questions about Earth. Though they always kept a safe distance, his friend Ji-woo found the whole situation funny. "You have become famous," he said one morning over breakfast. "Half the students think you are a monster, and the other half want to study you like a science project. Taemin ate his meal quietly. The academy food was strange, but not bad. Everything was grown in special gardens that used alien plants. "I just wish they would act normal around me," he said. "Normal for them is being afraid of anything that might—" "Eat them," said a voice behind him. Taemin turned to see Kim So-young, another human student who had arrived the week before. She was studying advanced physics and was very smart. "I heard about your performance in Dr. Quintilac's class. You made quite an impression." So-young sat down with her breakfast. Like Ji-woo and Tae-min, she seemed relaxed and confident in a way that made the alien students nervous. "The professor has been asking other faculty about human behavior patterns. I think you started something." That afternoon, Taemin went to his xenobiology class as usual. The classroom was buzzing with excitement, though he noticed the alien students seemed more nervous than normal. Vexathera, the crystal student who sat next to him, was changing colors faster than usual. "What has everyone worried?" Taemin asked her. "Dr. Quintalac announced something special for today," she replied, her crystal body flashing yellow, which Taemin had learned meant anxiety. "A live examination. We are going to observe a real predator, not just holograms." Professor Dr. Quintalac entered the room, followed by several academy security guards. The professor's tentacles moved in patterns that indicated excitement. "Students, today marks a milestone in your education," the professor announced. "You will observe and catalog the behavior of a live Vorthak, one of the most dangerous predators in the Andorian system." The reaction was immediate. Students throughout the room began making distressed sounds. Some started moving toward the exits. Others huddled together in small groups. Taemin noticed that one student who looked like a large insect began shaking, so hard that his chair rattled. "What exactly is a Vorthak?" Taemin asked Vexthara. Her crystal body turned bright red, which meant fear. "A nightmare creature. They grow to be 15 feet long and have tentacles covered in poison barbs. They are ambush predators that can change color to hide, and they have been known to attack spacecraft that get too close to their territory." Taemin nodded, interested. It sounded like a cross between an octopus and some of the large predatory fish he had seen in Earth's deep oceans. Dangerous, but probably following predictable behavior patterns like most predators. Dr. Quintalac led the class down several corridors to a part of the academy Taemin had never seen before. The walls here were thicker and covered with warning signs in multiple languages. They stopped in front of a massive door marked with symbols that clearly meant danger. "The Vorthak is contained in a biosecure observation chamber," the professor explained. "Multiple energy barriers separate us from the creature. You will observe from the viewing platform and record your findings about its hunting behaviors and territorial displays." The doors opened to reveal a large room with a raised platform overlooking a deep chamber below. The chamber was filled with water and rocks that looked like an underwater cave system. Energy fields shimmered in the air, creating barriers that contained whatever was inside. Most of the alien students crowded together at the back of the platform, as far from the chamber as possible. Some refused to come closer than the doorway. Taemin noticed that a few had already left the room entirely. Blixandra, a Katorian student who considered herself the class expert on predator behavior, positioned herself at what she claimed was the optimal observation distance. Her scales changed to a dull brown color that meant she was trying to avoid being noticed. "Humans first," Dr. Quintalac said, gesturing toward the viewing area. "Since Taemin has experience with dangerous predators, perhaps he can provide insights for the class." Taemin walked to the front of the platform and looked down into the chamber. At first he saw nothing but rocks and floating plants. Then something moved in the shadows and he got his first look at the Vorthak. It was indeed impressive. The creature was about 12 feet long with a body like a massive squid. Its tentacles were covered in sharp barbs that gleamed with what was probably venom. Its skin shifted colors constantly, blending with the rocks and plants around it. Large, intelligent eyes watched the viewing platform above. "Incredible," Taemin said, leaning closer to the reinforced viewing panel. He began taking notes on his data pad. "Look at how it positions itself near that rock formation. It is not just hiding. It is controlling the territory around that cave entrance." Behind him, he heard some students gasp as he moved closer to the glass. The Vorthak had noticed his movement and was now watching him directly. Its tentacles spread wider, and its skin turned darker colors. "Is it getting angry?" asked one of the students from the back of the platform. Taemin studied the creature's posture and color changes. It reminded him of behaviors he had seen in large territorial animals back on Earth. "I do not think it is angry. It is trying to figure out what we are. See how it keeps one tentacle near the cave entrance? It is protecting its territory, but also keeping an escape route open." Dr. Quintalak moved closer, clearly interested in Taemin's observations. "What else do you notice?" "Its color changes are not random," Taemin continued, making more notes. "When it looks directly at us, it gets darker. When it focuses on other parts of the chamber, it lightens up. It is probably a threat display combined with camouflage behavior." The Vorthak suddenly moved, flowing through the water with surprising grace. It approached the viewing panel directly below where Taemin stood. The alien students behind him made frightened noises and moved even further back. But Taemin stayed where he was, watching the creature's movements carefully. "It is curious about us," he said. "Look at how it approaches. Not attacking, just investigating. It probably does not see creatures like us very often." The Vorthak pressed some of its tentacles against the energy barrier, testing it gently. Its eyes remained fixed on Taemin, who continued to observe and take notes calmly. "How are you not terrified?" Vexathara called from the back of the platform. "That thing could tear apart a small ship." Taemin looked back at his classmates, then at the creature below. "It is a predator, yes. But it is also a living thing trying to survive. It has rules it follows, just like any animal. If you understand the rules, you can predict what it will do." Professor Dr. Quintalak's tentacles moved in patterns of amazement. "In 20 years of teaching, I have never seen a student remain so calm during a Vorthak observation. Most take several sessions just to approach the viewing platform." The creature below seemed to lose interest in the students and moved back to its preferred hiding spot near the cave. It settled into position with its tentacles arranged for quick movement, watching the chamber entrance for any signs of prey. "It is beautiful in a way," Taemin said quietly. "Perfectly adapted for its environment. Every part of its body serves a purpose for hunting and survival." This comment seemed to shock the alien students even more than his calmness. Beautiful was not a word any of them would use for such a dangerous creature. As the observation session continued, Taemin provided a running commentary on the Vorthak's behaviors. He explained how its movements showed intelligence and planning, how its color changes communicated mood and intent, and how its positioning in the chamber demonstrated complex territorial awareness. By the end of the class, the other students were listening to his explanations with fascination instead of fear. They were still keeping their distance, but they had stopped making frightened noises. Dr. Quintalak dismissed the class with an assignment to write detailed reports on their observations. As students filed out, many approached Taimin with questions. "How did you know it was not going to attack?" asked Blixandra. "How could you tell what its colors meant?" wondered another student. Taimin tried to answer their questions, but he found it difficult to explain. To him, reading animal behavior was as natural as reading facial expressions on humans. He had grown up around wild animals and had learned to understand their signals without thinking about it. As he walked back to his dormitory with Ji-woo and So Young, he reflected on the day's events. "You realize you just did something impossible, right?" So Young said. "Those students think you have magical powers or something." "I just watched an animal being an animal," Taimin replied. "It was not doing anything that different from the bears back home?" Ji-woo shook his head. "That is exactly the point. What is normal for us is impossible for them to imagine. I think you are about to become very famous around here." Taimin hoped his friend was wrong, but he had a feeling that his simple observation of the Vorthak was going to change how the Academy saw human students forever. The next week brought more students to Dr. Quintalak's xenobiology class than ever before. Word had spread throughout the Academy about the human student who could calmly observe a Vorthak. Some students came to see Taimin for themselves, while others hoped to learn his techniques for understanding dangerous predators. Taimin was not comfortable with all the attention, but he tried to help when other students asked questions. He found it strange that things that seemed obvious to him were so difficult for aliens to understand. "The key is watching body language," he explained to a group of students after class. "Most predators telegraph their intentions if you know what to look for. Aggressive postures are different from defensive ones, and both are different from curiosity." Vexithera, who had become more comfortable around him, asked, "But how do you stay calm when something dangerous is looking at you?" Taimin thought about it. "Fear makes you do stupid things. If you panic, you might run when you should stay still, or stay still when you should move. Staying calm lets you think clearly and make better decisions." This answer seemed to puzzle the alien students even more. For species that had evolved as prey animals, fear was a survival mechanism that kept them alive. The idea of controlling fear was foreign to most of them. Dr. Quintalak had scheduled another Vorthak observation session for advanced students. This time, the creature would be moved to a larger chamber that better mimicked its natural environment. The professor hoped this would provide better data on its hunting behaviors. The new observation chamber was enormous, with multiple levels and viewing platforms. The Vorthak would have more space to move around, and students could observe from different angles. The containment system was more complex, too, with several layers of energy barriers and backup safety systems. When the class arrived at the new facility, Taimin noticed more security personnel than usual. The guards seemed nervous, constantly checking their equipment and talking in low voices. Dr. Quintalak was reviewing safety protocols with unusual care. "Today's session will last longer than our previous observations," the professor announced. "The creature has been moved to this chamber just this morning, so it may be more active as it explores its new territory." The students took their positions on the various viewing platforms. Most alien students chose the highest platform as far from the chamber as possible. Taimin, along with a few brave alien students, positioned himself on the lower platform for a better view. The Vorthak was indeed more active in the larger space. It moved through the water with fluid grace, exploring every corner of the chamber. Its tentacles tested rocks, plants, and the energy barriers that contained it. The creature seemed curious about its new environment, but not distressed. Look how systematically it explores, Taemin noted, making observations on his data pad. It is mapping the territory, finding the best hiding spots and hunting positions. 15 minutes into the observation, something went wrong. A low alarm began buzzing throughout the facility. Red lights flashed on the containment control panels. The Vorthak immediately responded to the changes, its tentacles spreading wide and its color shifting to dark warning patterns. "Minor system fluctuation," announced one of the technicians. "All barriers remain stable. Continue observations." But Taemin noticed something the technician had missed. One of the secondary energy barriers was flickering slightly. The Vorthak had noticed it too and was moving closer to investigate. "Professor," Taemin called out, "I think there might be a problem with barrier section 7. Before Dr. Quintalak could respond, the flickering barrier failed completely. The Vorthak, with the quick reflexes of a natural predator, immediately tested the gap with one tentacle. When it encountered no resistance, the creature began pushing through. Panic erupted throughout the observation area. Alien students screamed and ran in all directions. Some fainted on the spot. Others pressed themselves against the walls as far from the chamber as possible. The prey instincts of their species took over completely, shutting down rational thought. Security. Alarms blared throughout the facility. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. The containment technicians worked frantically at their control panels, trying to restore the failed barrier. The Vorthak had gotten about half its body through. The gap when the remaining barriers fluctuated. For a moment, it looked like all containment might fail, leaving nothing between the creature and the observation areas. Most of the alien students were either running toward the exits or frozen in terror. Even some of the security guards seemed unsure what to do. Dr. Quintalak was trying to coordinate an evacuation while maintaining some semblance of order, but Taemin did not run. Instead, he moved closer to the chamber, studying the Vorthak's behavior carefully. What he saw was not an aggressive predator trying to escape. The creature's color patterns showed confusion and stress, not hunting intent. Its movements were cautious, not aggressive. "Wait!" Taemin called out over the alarms. "Everyone stop running!" His voice was calm and clear, cutting through the panic. Some people actually paused to look at him, though most continued their frantic evacuation attempts. "The Vorthak is not attacking," Taemin continued, moving slowly toward the damaged containment area. "It is scared and confused. Look at its body language." "Are you insane?" shouted Blixandra from near the exit. "That thing will kill you." But Taemin had noticed something important. The Vorthak was bleeding from small cuts where it had pushed through the energy barrier. The creature was hurt and trying to figure out what was happening to its environment. "Professor," Taemin said, his voice still calm despite the chaos around him, "the creature is injured. It is not trying to escape. It is trying to understand why its environment suddenly changed." Dr. Quintalak, despite the panic of the situation, moved closer to observe. The professor's scientific training overcame fear as he watched the Vorthak's behavior. "You may be right," the professor said. "Its posture suggests confusion rather than aggression." Taemin approached the containment area slowly, keeping his movements smooth and predictable. He avoided direct eye contact with the creature, which might be seen as a challenge. Instead, he observed its behavior patterns, just as he would with any wild animal back on Earth. The Vorthak watched him approach, but did not make aggressive moves. Its tentacles remained spread for quick movement, but they were positioned defensively. rather than for attack. The creature's colors showed wariness but not the dark patterns of hunting mode. "It is like dealing with an injured bear," Taemin explained to anyone still listening. "Quick movements will trigger defensive responses. Calm, predictable behavior helps the animal understand that you are not a threat." The emergency technicians had managed to stabilize the remaining barriers, but they could not restore the failed section with the Vorthak partially through it. The creature was essentially stuck, which was making it more agitated. "Can you sedate it?" Taemin asked the security team. "Not while it is partially outside the containment field," replied the security chief. "The sedation system only works inside the chamber." Taemin studied the situation carefully. The Vorthak needed to either move completely into the chamber or back out through the gap. But its injured tentacles were caught in the damaged barrier, and the creature did not understand how to free itself. "I need to help it get unstuck," Taemin said. The remaining students and staff stared at him in disbelief. Dr. Quintalac's tentacles moved in patterns of shock. "That is far too dangerous," the professor said. "More dangerous than leaving it trapped and getting more agitated?" Taemin replied. "Look, it is already starting to thrash around. If it panics completely, it could damage more barriers or seriously hurt itself." Indeed, the Vorthak was beginning to move more violently as it tried to free its caught tentacles. Its color patterns were shifting toward the darker shades that indicated rising stress levels. Taemin moved closer, speaking in the same calm, steady voice he would use with injured animals back home. He could not speak the creature's language, but tone and body language were universal among most species. "Easy there," he said softly. "Nobody wants to hurt you. Let's figure this out together." Incredibly, the Vorthak seemed to respond to his calm presence. Its thrashing movements slowed, and it watched Taemin with what looked like curiosity rather than fear or aggression. Working with the emergency technicians, Taemin helped guide the creature's movements so it could free its trapped tentacles without causing more injury. It took nearly 20 minutes of careful, patient work, but eventually the Vorthak was able to pull back completely into the containment chamber. The moment the creature was fully contained, the technicians activated the backup barrier's ceiling, the gap. The Vorthak, now free and no longer trapped, immediately moved to a quiet corner of the chamber to tend to its minor injuries. As the alarms finally stopped and the emergency lights switched off, an eerie quiet fell over the observation area. The alien students, who had not fled entirely, stood staring at Taemin in complete amazement. He had just spent nearly half an hour working directly with one of the most dangerous predators in known space, and both he and the creature had emerged, unharmed. Dr. Quintalac approached him slowly, the professor's tentacles moving in patterns that indicated deep respect, mixed with bewilderment. Taemin woke up the next morning to find a crowd of students gathered outside his dormitory building. Some held recording devices. Others just stared as he walked past. The news of his interaction with the Vorthak had spread far beyond the academy. "This is getting ridiculous," Jiwoo said, as they tried to eat breakfast while surrounded by curious aliens. "Half of them look at you like you are some kind of god, and the other half act like you might eat them." So Young joined them at their table, looking amused. "Have you seen the galactic news feeds? They are calling you the Vorthak Whisperer and the human who speaks death." "Some of the headlines are pretty dramatic," Taemin sighed. "I just helped an injured animal. I do not understand why everyone is making such a big deal about it." "That is exactly why it is a big deal," said a new voice. They turned to see Dr. Quintalac approaching their table. The professor's tentacles moved in patterns of excitement. "May I sit with you? We need to discuss what happened yesterday." The alien. Students nearby moved away, giving the professor space. Dr. Quintillac settled into a chair designed for his species. "Taemin, what you did yesterday should have been impossible," the professor began. "A Vorthak in distress is one of the most dangerous situations any xenobiologist can face. Yet you approached it like you were helping a lost pet." "It was hurt and confused," Taemin replied. "Any animal in that situation needs calm, predictable behavior from those around it. Getting excited or aggressive would only make things worse." Dr. Quintillac's tentacles moved in what Taemin had learned meant deep thought. "But how did you know it would not attack? How did you recognize that its behavior indicated confusion rather than hunting aggression?" Taemin struggled to explain, something that felt natural to him. "The way it moved, the colors it showed, how it positioned its tentacles, it all said scared and trapped, not ready to hunt. Reading animal behavior is not that difficult once you know what to look for." "For you, perhaps," said a new voice. An alien Taemin had never seen before approached the table. This one was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished stone. "I am Dr. Hyuna, a xenopsychologist. I have been studying the recordings of yesterday's incident." Dr. Hyuna sat down and activated a small holographic projector. Images of the Vorthak incident played in the air above the table, showing Taemin's calm approach to the dangerous creature. "I have shown this recording to behavioral experts from 12 different species," Dr. Hyuna continued. "None of them could explain how you predicted the creature's responses. To most galactic species, what you did appears to be either magic or insanity." "But it is not magic," Taemin protested. "Animals follow patterns. If you understand the patterns, you can work with them safely." Dr. Hyuna's stone-like features shifted in what might have been a smile. "Exactly. And that is what makes this so remarkable. You have an intuitive understanding of predator psychology that other species lack entirely." Over the next few days, more experts arrived at the academy. They came from universities and research stations across the galaxy, all wanting to understand how a human could so easily interact with dangerous predators. Admiral Corthes arrived from the Galactic Council military headquarters. He was a huge alien who looked like a cross between a lizard and a rhinoceros. His species, the Mordaki, were among the few aliens who had evolved from predators, though they had been plant eaters for thousands of years. "Your performance with the Vorthak has raised important questions," the Admiral told Taemin during a formal interview. "The military has been studying ways to deal with dangerous wildlife on colony worlds. Most of our methods involve heavy weapons and protective barriers. You suggest there might be better approaches." Taemin found himself explaining basic wildlife management techniques that every park ranger on Earth would know: how to read animal body language, how to avoid triggering aggressive responses, when to stand your ground, and when to retreat slowly. "On Earth, we live alongside dangerous predators all the time," he explained. "Bears, big cats, venomous snakes, sharks, they are all just part of the natural world. We have learned to coexist with them." Admiral Cortes's large eyes widened. "Your entire species coexists with such creatures? How many humans are killed by predators each year?" "Actually, very few," Taemin replied. "Maybe a few hundred out of 8 billion people. Most predator attacks happen when humans do something stupid, like getting between a mother bear and her cubs, or swimming in shark feeding areas during hunting season. The Admiral's translator made confused sounds as it tried to process this information. The idea that billions of beings could share a planet with deadly predators and have so few casualties was beyond his understanding. Dr. Huna had been conducting extensive research into human psychology and behavior patterns. She presented her findings to a gathering of Academy faculty and visiting experts. "Humans represent a unique evolutionary case," she announced to the assembled aliens. "They are the only known sapient species that evolved as both predator and prey. This dual nature has given them psychological adaptations that no other civilized species possesses." She activated holographic displays showing evolutionary trees from different worlds. Most galactic species evolved from herbivores, scavengers, or small predators that avoided conflict. Humans evolved from hunting pack animals that also had to defend themselves against larger predators. The implications of this information rippled through the academic community. Taimin watched the presentations with growing amazement as experts analyzed abilities he had never thought were unusual. "Human fear responses are highly controllable," Dr. Huna continued. "They can maintain rational thought processes even when faced with mortal danger. This allows them to assess predator behavior objectively instead of simply fleeing." "But how is this possible?" asked one of the alien professors. "Fear is a survival mechanism. Ignoring it should lead to death, not survival. Humans do not ignore fear," Dr. Hyuna explained. "They process it differently. Their predator heritage allows them to distinguish between different types of threats and respond appropriately to each one." Taimin found this fascinating. He had never thought about why he could stay calm around dangerous animals when other species could not. It had always seemed natural to him. His brother Minho contacted him via quantum communication from Earth. The entire planet was buzzing with news about Taimin's galactic fame. "You are all over the news here," Minho said, his image flickering slightly due to the vast distance. "They are calling you a hero and saying you proved that humans belong in galactic society. Mom is proud but worried that you are taking too many risks." "I am not taking risks," Taimin protested. "I am just treating animals with respect and understanding. Tell Mom I am being careful." "You faced down a space monster with your bare hands," Minho replied. "I do not think careful means what you think it means." The academic discussions continued for weeks. Experts debated the implications of human-predator psychology for everything from colony defense to interspecies diplomacy. Some suggested that humans could serve as intermediaries when other species encountered dangerous wildlife. Others worried about the implications of having predators in galactic society, even civilized ones. There were heated debates about whether humans could be trusted not to revert to their hunting instincts. Taimin watched these debates with growing frustration. He was tired of being treated like a laboratory specimen or a dangerous animal himself. He just wanted to finish his studies and go home to Earth. But Dr. Quintalak had other plans. "You have sparked a revolution in xenobiology," the professor told him. "Universities across the galaxy want to study your methods. The Galactic Council is considering new policies for human integration based on your unique abilities." "I do not have unique abilities," Taimin insisted. "Any human could have done what I did. We all grow up around dangerous animals." "That is exactly the point," Dr. Quintalak replied. "What is normal for humans is miraculous for everyone else. You have shown us that there are other ways to interact with dangerous life forms besides fear and violence." As the semester continued, Taimin found himself teaching as much as learning. Other students came to him for advice on understanding predator behavior. Even faculty members asked for his insights on their research projects. Slowly, he began to understand that his simple actions had revealed something important about humanity's place in the galaxy. Humans were not just another species seeking membership in galactic civilization. They brought unique perspectives and abilities that could benefit everyone. The incident with the Vorthak had been recorded and analyzed by experts across dozens of worlds. It was becoming a case study in interspecies cooperation and alternative approaches to dangerous situation management. Taemin realized that he was no longer just a student trying to complete his education. He had become a symbol of what humans could offer to the galactic community. The responsibility was both exciting and terrifying. He began to understand that when he returned to Earth, he would not be coming back as the same person who had left. The galaxy had changed him, just as he had apparently changed how the galaxy viewed humanity. The question now was what to do with this newfound understanding and the opportunities it created. 6 months after the Vorthak incident, Taemin stood in the same observation chamber where everything had begun. But this time, he was not alone with frightened alien students. Instead, he was leading a mixed team of graduates from multiple species on their first real mission. The Galactic Council had created a new department called Dangerous Wildlife Management, and Taemin had been asked to head the training program. It felt strange to be teaching others when he was still learning himself, but Dr. Quintalic had convinced him it was necessary. "The galaxy needs your perspective," the professor had said. "No one else can bridge the gap between our fear and your understanding." Today's mission was to relocate a colony of crystal spiders from a moon that was slowly breaking apart. The spiders were beautiful creatures that built structures from pure silicon, but they were also highly territorial and had venom that could kill most galactic species instantly. Taemin's team included Vexathara, who had overcome her initial fear to become one of his best students. There was also Blixandra, the Katorian, who had once considered herself the predator expert of their class. Even some faculty members had joined the program, including a young Silvani researcher named Colvera, whose plant-like species had never encountered anything more dangerous than a hungry insect. "Remember what we have practiced," Taemin said as their transport ship approached the unstable moon. "The spiders are not aggressive unless they feel threatened. We move slowly, we respect their territory, and we give them time to understand our intentions." Vexathara's crystal body flickered with nervous colors, but she nodded confidently. "Approach from the side, not directly toward their nests. Let them see us coming, but do not make direct eye contact until they acknowledge our presence." "And if one of them shows aggressive posturing?" Taemin asked. "Freeze in place," replied Blixandra. "Do not retreat quickly, which they might see as prey behavior. Wait for the display to end, then continue slowly." Taemin smiled. His students had learned well, though he knew this would be their first real test. Practice sessions with holographic simulations were very different from facing actual dangerous creatures. The moon's surface was covered with incredible crystal formations that the spiders had built over hundreds of years. The structures looked like a cross between spider webs and geometric sculptures, all made from pure silicon that caught and reflected the light from the nearby star. "It is beautiful," whispered Colvera as they approached the main colony site. "How could anyone think these creatures are just dangerous monsters?" "Fear makes it hard to see beauty," Taemin replied. "When you are afraid of something, you only notice the parts that might hurt you." The first crystal spider they encountered was about the size of a large dog, with legs that looked like living glass and patterns on its body that shifted like rainbows. It paused in its web building when it noticed the approaching team. Taemin stopped walking and held up his hand for the others to do the same. The spider was not showing aggressive postures, but it was clearly evaluating these strange visitors to its territory. "What is it thinking?" asked Vexithara in a whisper. "Probably wondering if we are a threat to its work," Taemin replied softly. "Look at the web pattern it was building. We interrupted it in the middle of a complex section. It wants to know if it is safe to continue." They waited patiently as the spider considered the situation. After several minutes, the creature made what looked like a decision. It moved to a different part of its web and began working on a simpler section, keeping one eye on the visitors while it worked. "It is giving us permission to pass," Taemin said. "But it is also telling us to stay away from its current project. We can move forward, but give that web a wide space." The team spent the next several hours carefully mapping the spider colony and setting up the equipment that would help relocate the creatures to a safer moon. The spiders watched with curiosity, but showed no signs of aggression. Taemin found himself thinking about how much had changed since his first day at the academy. The alien students, who had once been terrified of Earth animals, now worked confidently alongside creatures that most of their species would consider nightmares. Dr. Quintillac arrived on the transport ship that evening, along with some important visitors. President Kim Ye-jin, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, had come to observe the mission personally. "The Council is very impressed with the progress of your program," President Kim told Taemin as they watched the crystal spiders work on their magnificent structures. "3 major colony worlds have requested human assistance with their dangerous wildlife problems." "And the opposition?" Taemin asked. He knew that not all galactic species were comfortable with humans taking on such responsibilities. "Ambassador Thelkon has withdrawn his objections," the president replied. "After seeing the recordings of your team's work, even he admits that humans offer unique solutions to problems other species cannot handle." Ambassador Thelkon had been one of the strongest voices arguing that humans should be kept isolated from galactic society. His species, the Velthari, were descended from small herbivores and had an almost pathological fear of predators. The next morning brought unexpected visitors to the moon. A Velthari research ship had arrived, and Ambassador Thelkon himself had come to observe the spider relocation mission. "I had to see this for myself," the ambassador admitted to Taemin. "My people have been afraid of humans since we first learned about your species. We thought you would bring violence and chaos to galactic civilization." Taemin watched his team working with the crystal spiders, helping them prepare for the move to their new home. Vexithara was communicating with a large spider through a series of light patterns, while Blixandra carefully photographed the web structures to help recreate them on the new moon. "Do we look chaotic to you?" Taemin asked. Ambassador Thelkon's translator made sounds of amusement. "You look like gardeners," he replied. "Careful, patient gardeners working with very dangerous plants." The spider relocation took 3 days to complete. The team had to move not just the creatures themselves, but also samples of their web materials and detailed plans of their colony structures. The spiders needed to feel that their new home was similar to their old one, or they might become aggressive from stress. Throughout the process, Taemin's alien teammates demonstrated skills he had never expected to see. Species that had evolved as prey animals were learning to work calmly alongside deadly predators. They were overcoming millions of years of evolutionary programming through training and practice. "How do you feel about working with the spiders?" he asked Colvera as they watched the creatures begin building new webs on their new moon. Terrified and amazed at the same time, the plant-like alien replied. 6 months ago, I would have fainted just seeing a hologram of these creatures. Now I feel honored to help them find a new home. When the mission was complete and the crystal spiders were safely established on their new moon, the team gathered for a final evaluation. Dr. Quintalak and the visiting dignitaries had watched every phase of the operation. You have accomplished something that most galactic experts said was impossible, Dr. Quintalak announced. A peaceful relocation of apex predators using cooperation rather than containment or destruction. President Kim stepped forward. The Galactic Council has voted to establish a permanent interspecies wildlife management department. They want to offer you the position of director, Taimin. Taimin looked at his team, who were all watching him with expectant expressions. These aliens who had once been afraid of him now trusted him completely. They had become his friends and colleagues. I accept, he said, but only if my entire team can come with me. We work better together. The new department was established on a space station at the intersection of several major trade routes. Students came from across the galaxy to learn human techniques for understanding dangerous wildlife. The program expanded to include not just predator management, but general animal psychology and ecosystem preservation. A year later, Taimin received a message from his family on Earth. His younger sister had been accepted to study xenobiology at Velthera Prime Academy. She would be following in his footsteps, but as part of a much larger human presence in galactic education. The Academy has established a permanent Earth Studies program, Dr. Quintalak told him during one of their regular communications. We want to understand how humans develop such unique perspectives on dangerous life forms. Taimin smiled as he thought about the changes that had come from one simple incident with a confused Vorthak. He had not set out to change how the galaxy viewed humanity. He had just tried to help an injured animal, but perhaps that was exactly the point. Humans brought to the galaxy something that had been missing, the ability to see danger and beauty. In the same creature, to find cooperation where others saw only conflict. Standing on the observation deck of his space station, Taimin watched ships arrive from dozens of different worlds. They brought students eager to learn, researchers with new theories to test, and wildlife that needed safe relocation or medical treatment. The galaxy was full of wonders and dangers, just like Earth. But now, instead of being paralyzed by fear or resorting to violence, the galactic community was learning to find the third option,